Hello and welcome to the Predictable B2B Success Podcast brought to you by Sproutworth.com. I'm Vinay Koshi, and you, more importantly, are a business owner or executive who passionately wants to grow their business predictably through empathetic content and conversations that convert in order to fulfill its complete potential. This is why I interview founders and experts like yesterday, Sreelesh Pillai, to uncover an aspect of how they go about doing that for their own business or that of others. Sri, when I was thinking about our conversation today, I was thinking about meal replacement shakes, because when meal replacement shakes first came to the market, they seemed like an answer to every dieter's prayer. Replacing one or two meals with a calorie-counted milkshake meant ingesting fewer calories, resulting in rapid weight loss. Now, meal replacements worked well for some people for a period of time. Those first few kilos came off pretty well, but pretty soon monotony overcame motivation, and dieters started putting the kilos back on as they went back to eating real food. The efficacy of the product failed to meet expectations, at least in my opinion. It's not that the product didn't work, it's just that it didn't do everything that the customer hoped it would do. So Sri, I was wondering, would you say that given the survey that your company has run and from your own experiences with clients, that the problem still exists today, especially in the business world, and is perhaps amplified as well?
I love the analogy, and it's really for the listener to decide on what is the shake and what is the meal. But I concur. In business, software has been such a big part of success and failure. There are many leaders who come into an organization hoping to reap big success, and sometimes it's all pointed towards the software that an organization uses.
Right.
And if it's not sitting happy with the users, then work is even more easier. Let's go change the software, right? And at the end, if business runs better, all good. But if it does not, probably again you point at the software. But in terms of your analogy, see, every business is different, just like how every dietitian or every human's different. So there would be some people who are okay with that shake and running for years on end, right? And I think the whole promise is know what you want. If you like the biting into something, right? Know what you liked and know what you want. There's always going to be a way in which you can straddle both, and that should be the perfect fit. I might maybe do 3 shakes in the morning when I'm doing my runs, but for the rest, I might have actual solid breakfast. I think you need to decide what's the best of breed software that you want, and what is something that you want for a long term. So I think it's really trying to get into the best of both worlds, and seeing what fits. Yeah.
Certainly. You are the general manager for Freshworks Australia. Freshworks being, and from what I gather, an innovative customer and employee engagement platform. Would that be correct? Now, you're an international company. You head up the Australian division. And from what I can gather, your background has really been in a variety of sales, marketing, and support type roles. Would that be a fair summary?
Yes, customer facing. I just love customer facing roles and sales. It did begin with marketing here at Freshworks.
Right.
And now, yes, there is a lot of sales, there is a lot of customer success, but you're right, yes.
Sreelesh, I'm curious, given your journey to date, what would you say is your personal area of strength?
I think listening. When you listen, be it with the customer or be it with a colleague, you are uncovering improvement areas or challenges. And I think the listening and the transparency that I hope to continue building is what I feel are my strengths.
Okay. And what would you say is, in that area of strength, is something that businesses don't know but should?
In those areas of strength. See, one of the things I now given the opportunity of addressing is, we as businesses, I think it's okay for your vendors to tell you upfront what can happen, what cannot happen. I'm seeing that being lost in the marketplace. So a lot of vendors who want to tell you that the whole 9 yards can happen with us. Come, let's go, let's jump, let's do this. And then at the end of it, not really. Something in terms of the listening and the transparency aspect that I hope to build within our team, within our culture, and hopefully within the region is get every customer out there, get your vendors to be truly being transparent in terms of what's possible and what's not. And it's a partnership, right? Wherever there is a not possible, let's see what can happen, what can be done to make it happen.
And was that one of the reasons why you ran this customer experience survey?
Oh, yeah. So the customer experience survey is really, it's our way of keeping in touch with, what's happening. We're fortunate to be in a position where we can help businesses across COVID. So when you want to help, you want to help. So we did this survey across 1,400 global CX leaders, but here in Australia, New Zealand, 200 of them. We did it around the middle of the pandemic, to be honest. So the first wave here in Australia was done with, and around July, August is when we did this. So we wanted to hear from leaders what they thought about before the pandemic, in the pandemic, and what they thought would be life after the pandemic. So we wanted to know their thoughts and how we could, as a software company, start addressing or helping.
Certainly. Okay. And I believe one of the key highlights from that survey was that there was an increase in customer expectations, especially in the Australia, New Zealand region, as compared to the rest of the world. Is that correct?
No, not really. So there has been an increase throughout.
Okay.
The load, the expectation from customers, there's been an increase throughout, 59% here in Australia, New Zealand. The numbers are pretty similar in other regions as well. Okay. But I think what stood out for us, Vinay, was that our customer here in Australia, New Zealand, our customer expectations increased. And so did the empathy from customers, in the sense customers understood that, hey, this is a situation which there is no precedence. The expectations increased, the empathy also increased, so much so that here in Australia, New Zealand, the region did not see as much churn, customer churn, as other regions saw.
Okay, certainly.
So a positive light for ANZ.
And it's always helpful to have empathy in your favor as a business, but would you say that companies were better prepared, perhaps over here, in terms of meeting customer expectations, just simply because they had better systems and processes in place?
It's a mix, really. The biggest thing that, here in ANZ pulled us back, I'd say, is the budgets here were lower compared to 2019. And if you compare this with the other regions in the world, and it stood out for ANZ. So here in ANZ, CX leaders, 54% of them said their budgets had decreased in 2020 versus 2019. Now that's the biggest, I think, drawback we've seen here in region. And if I was to try and put some more color into it, why here in Australia and New Zealand did we see budgets decreased, and not a good place to be in when you're having customer expectations increase? So I think that's really because many of us, unfortunately, still see the customer service center or the contact center as a cost center. And naturally, when you see something as a cost center, and when things when business don't go, that's the first thing that's cut, isn't it? So I think, unfortunately, budgets had been cut in getting into 2020. So it's been a double whammy. There's COVID happening, customer expectations increasing, and budgets decrease. So that really hurt us here in ANZ.
Okay. I think I'd like to step back a little bit and help people get a better grasp of how customer expectations are formed, because we often tend to gloss over that. So from your experiences, what are the things that sort of influence that sort of expectation?
Yeah, I think just me personally, I've been saying this very recently. So, you know how you go to Bunnings, right? Do your shopping, and then at the end of it, sometimes you take 2 hours there. You just walking around, spending time, deciding. At the end of it, you come out and there's beautiful, aroma of sausage sizzle. And you grab a sausage sizzle, you're happy. You not just end that tiring day with the delicious sausage sizzle. So what happens to such an experience, during COVID, right? Sitting at home and you're looking at the Bunnings website, you get as big a screen as you can possible, but you're not there in the whole, big factory-like environment. And at the end of it, you have no sausage sizzle as well. So the experience, and that's what I've been asking organizations to try and think beyond customer service expectations, but really the experience. I was fortunate to hear from one of leaders in Bunnings when they said, you know what, Sri, at the end of that online purchase, we actually provided, I forget the dollar value, we actually provided a voucher and said, hey, dear customer, have your sausage sizzle at the very next opportunity possible. Mm-hmm. That's a wow moment, isn't it? So you're not biting the sausage, you're not feeling it, but at the end of it, you're surprised with that voucher, which you never thought would come in. And at least at the end of it, you're trying, to get into that same customer experience level that anyone had when they walked into a Bunnings store. I think, and by the way, that's what's happening, right? So there are brilliant brands who are providing these exceptional customer experiences, even digitally. So people like you and me are being spoiled by these leading brands, and thus customer expectations increasing, right? So there's one whole level of customer expectations increasing, and then there's another whole level of, customer service, business as usual service, which is finding lacking, whether it's you're not telling me where my order is, or you're taking too long to tell, to acknowledge my request. So I think it's service and expectations. And when companies think at it in both angles, expectation, the customer experience, as well as the service levels, then is when, you truly be successful.
Certainly. So my takeaways from what you were just saying, at least from how customers form expectations, would be that they're experiencing customer service or perhaps a customer experience from your competitors. That certainly influences that. They experience the same from your own business. And with the advent of technology and review sites, they're hearing about news about you and or your competitors from these sites, whether they be review sites alone or general news itself. It's interesting to hear that people are also forming opinions based on experiences. And I was wondering, at least in my opinion, there is an increased desire for personalization in the products, the services that you deliver. How are you helping companies, or would you recommend businesses change the way they operate in order to deliver more of a personalized experience? And by the way, I loved that analogy or that example you gave about Bunnings and the voucher at the end of the shopping experience. But are there other ways that people could really think this through?
Yeah. So I think, and many organizations have set their parts down this, right? It's called the customer 360. You want to know, about your customer, even at the stage of them looking or looking over your website, reading a few frequently asked questions, and then reaching out for support. When organizations make a single database about their customer, know what it's first about know what they purchased. But no, it's not just that. You need to know even before all of that. What did they look at? What questions were not answered over the website? Mm-hmm. What were they typing out over the chat widget? And despite the help over the chat widget, they still wanted a call, right? So all of that context, it's not about what they purchased. All of that context about a customer. What did they do on the website? What are their likes? What did they call in between? Did they put in an order? Did they chat over the website? And when your customer-facing representative has all of that detail, she can truly personalize in that very interaction. So I think lots of technology out there, but it's fundamental that the customer's database is one, and all of either the channels of communication or maybe the inventory system or the order management system is tied around that single customer database. And that's when massive improvements can happen in personalization and personalization at scale. So if that customer database houses all that important information, your automation could even personalize at scale. So just imagine if there is this individual who's bought, I'm just assuming, a TV, okay, and has come back asking for what kind of stands are available, right? So you could launch a chat widget right there while they're browsing the TV. Hey, by the way, there's the last customer, and this is obviously inspired from Amazon, right? So these are the various items that you also bought. But did you know in your area, one of your franchisees has offered a 50% off stands? All of that could actually be automated once you have this beautiful customer database sitting tight.
Okay, so it's really about providing a degree of transparency and information flow to your frontline staff that are directly interacting with customers. And a lot of organizations, even today, they struggle with that, which leads me to this question, which is, there's this term of quality customer service being bandied about in certain organizations, and they may assume that they provide a quality service, but how do we know for sure that we're actually providing something that not just meets expectations of customers, but perhaps even exceeds them?
Something that I recently read, forget from where, but something like feedback. So how do you know? In fact, one very recent customer I was speaking to, they're wanting to set a baseline because they really don't know where they are. So you can start with, what is baseline? If I am a customer, would I like to have my inquiry responded to within the first 2 hours, even if it is just acknowledging that they have received my inquiry? As simple as that. So I think feedback and feedback that you can act on. So very frequent, whether it's customer satisfaction scores at the end of every ticket, when you're resolving it, send out a satisfaction score. Hey, how did we do? What do you think we could improve on? And that could even be transparently shared on a website. That's what we do actually, Vinay. So at Freshworks, every single satisfaction survey that we do with our customers, we aggregate them and we present them on our website. We transparently tell the world that, hey, we are at 89% happy customers. There are 3 of them, or 3% that said not too happy. So wearing your feedback transparently as an organization, seeking feedback and acting upon feedback continuous is your Kaizen world of customer service, right? You getting feedback transparently, putting that out there and sharing it internally is your way of continuously improving to the times and the needs of the customer. I think that's the single, best activity one could be doing, to be knowing customer expectations and to be traveling throughout the increasing tide of expectations.
Would you recommend surveys as perhaps the key, if not the only way of gaining feedback, or would you suggest that businesses use a multitude of avenues to get that feedback in order to map the overall customer journey and the various touch points that the business has with them?
Yeah, no, multiple. There's voice of the customer solutions, there is analytics solutions, there is even AI that can help you even tell you which day in the week in December you could be receiving a lot of tickets that you may not typically be able to handle with your current team. A lot of, I think, in fact, I remember in one of my previous organizations, we had this CEO who'd call in the support lines at random. So we have these different products. He'd call in the support line at random and speak to the customer rep. The customer rep would pick the phone and not know if it was a customer or the CEO. and that's also another way of gathering feedback, isn't it? Just pick up the phone, talk to people, right? If it's solution led, yes, it's captured there, but even the plain old simple talking to a customer, why not? And especially when it's someone like top management who's speaking to a customer or the front line, she gets hopefully unbiased feedback to truly improve upon. So multiple ways, Vinay, but I think once you have the will for customer feedback, the ways will open to you. Yeah.
So taking this further, we can organize the capturing of information and data and try and make that available to people on the front lines. But really at the core of it is, from what I gather from what you're saying, is this heartbeat of empathy within an organization, or if I could put that another way, the culture of the organization is not just customer centric, but empathetic towards them. Will that be correct?
That's so brilliantly put, wonderfully put. Yes, I think, and it's beautiful. The empathy is not just about customer, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's also about your own staff member, right?
Yeah.
It's your partners that work with you, right? So when at the core you have empathy high on a culture traits of a company, then success is bound to come, short term, long term. You're bang on the money on that. And empathy is, I think there's a lot of other things that provide empathy and even improve on the empathy quotient. So it's transparent sharing across teams. So I remember there's this company, I'm not sure if you know, Vinay, maybe you should interview them. This person actually is so transparent in their organization. They're actually sharing what every team member is paid, yeah, including the CEO himself. I've been following this company, I forget the company name, but slowly what's happening to this company is there's so many other people, talented people, who are asking the CEO, hey, when can I join? What do you guys need? I want to join this ship of yours. I think that's a beautiful story. When I truly try to understand, the CEO is so empathetic to a core, so transparent to a core, that everyone wants to do well. In fact, what happened in this company is during COVID, a bunch of these team members said, hey, I want to take a pay cut for us as an organization to take care of ourselves throughout this pandemic. So beautiful culture this person set, and now the whole world wants to conspire with them for them to be successful. Yeah, I think transparency, sharing helps a lot when you want to try and build empathy in the organization.
Mm-hmm. And if empathy were to be truly followed through on, then is there a space for a discussion around being available wherever a customer may want to be? In other words, omni-channel availability. Is that a logical conversation to have as part of that?
Oh, it's basic.
Right.
It's basic to have, yes. So, you got to be listening to your customers. Listening. If you need to listen, you need to be there. Now, many organizations I've seen, they're shy of opening up a channel in the belief that, hey, I'll need 5 people to be sitting on that channel and helping. So rather, let me just not open that channel. But that's just not, the way. You got to at least open up your presence as a company in that channel. If you do not have support staff channel, just transparently put up an image that says we're not available here, but you could always reach out on our website. We typically respond to chat in 30 seconds. Just an example of a message that could be there, and you're at least telling that particular group of customers that, hey, I'm not there, but you could, for any help, you could reach out there. And maybe even allowing them to, email and hey, I'm from Instagram, and I saw that you guys did not have your support options there, but this is what I wanted. And the more you hear, the more you listen, the more you hear, and then by default, the customer need would itself build your business case to be opening up hiring for that particular channel. So I think it's very important to be present in channels, and yes, omni-channels also. I think we last doing there is an internal webinar, or I'm not sure whether it's a podcast, about TikTok being the latest customer service channel. I want to listen to it. But yeah, that is the way. So as a company, we just can't shy ourselves of not being there in TikTok because we don't know TikTok.
Yeah.
We got to be there because that's where our customers are going to be, and we just need to be there.
I was actually going to mention TikTok if you hadn't, because I think one of the challenges is it's one thing to have a presence on a channel. It's quite another to be able to pull in the comments, the conversations, track brand mentions, etc., and make that available for your staff who already have a system that has a limited set of integrations. Could you help us, those of us who are struggling with those thoughts, as to how we might be able to approach it a little bit better?
Yeah. So, see, I start with where there's a will, you're going to have those ways. Don't worry. If you've got this system that does not integrate, now the word integrate can be at so many levels, just simply putting up your page in that particular channel, advising your customers, hey, if you needed help, reach out to this email address or just call us on this number. That easily integrates itself into traditional means of communication, right? And maybe here's another tip, maybe just to have the analytics of how many people came in from that channel, put in a small offer. Hey, if you're from TikTok, tell us this code word, which is TikTok forever, and we'll give you 2% off your next purchase. So you're also registering people who are coming in from TikTok through that code, despite using traditional phone media in terms of helping them out. So you're available, and still you don't have staff on that channel, you are available. Despite not integrating in terms of technology, you are still getting those calls from TikTok, right? Those emails from TikTok. And the analytics is also there because those users are sharing that particular piece of code, which allows you to know that they're from TikTok. And so your analytics is also there. So the more inputs from that channel, then slowly you start building your business case to be to be integrating or to be even maybe taking best of breed solutions to be helping over that channel.
So correct me if I'm wrong. I'm also hearing that it's not just about serving your customers, but rather serving the audience that happens to engage and interact with you, perhaps even comes onto your site or respective channels, and serve them to the best of your ability, because it's not just about that immediate transaction, it's about leaving impressions that take a person further in their journey and perhaps eventually to a sale.
Absolutely. Of 100 people that come to your website, you probably have, I don't know, at tops 20 people be your customers. The 80 people who left, are you giving them something of value that's going to positively attribute to your brand? Now, when you say value, it could be the whole experience of browsing the website, maybe even relevant personalization, relevant personalized content that could be served to them, and that would truly make them feel, hey, this is a place that I got quite some good information. Maybe I should come back and hang out on their website later. And obviously then they come into the funnel of meeting you more often, wanting to know about you, and hopefully, even if not customer, at least they're a positive team member in your brand success. So 100%. And that's where technology is also very important. You've got to have systems in place. Even the people who think empathy and personalization are core to a brand, to bring this all out, to make this all possible.
I'm curious, where would you sit on the spectrum of integrating sales, marketing, support? Because I've had a few conversations wherein companies like Hotjar, for example, don't have these various departments. They just have a group of people who do customer success, which encompasses all of these things as well. And it works well, whether they're trying to reach out to enterprise clients or to your one-man business as well. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think that's why we're seeing a lot many, chief experience officers.
Mm-hmm.
There was a point, I think, before the experience officer, there was the chief customer officer. So I think the experience that any person goes through with your brand needs to be part of board meetings, right? When you look at it that way, when you map out the experience, even before getting onto the website, right? You're looking at those review sites, and if you truly care about your brand and negative feedback, are you at least jumping in there and ensuring that you're addressing that negative experience, so that one, there was a person in pain, at least that person, hey, are you sure? Can I call you and check in if you're okay? Can we improve this for you? Not just for that person, but also for the other people who do not know your brand, who have not come onto your website and are doing their research and by chance chanced upon this particular review. So I think when we think about experience, it's not just about when they touch your website. It's so much more. And when you have a hat of the experience for the customer about your brand, then you start looking into so many other things into detail. And I think that's why the industry is matured into the customer experience officer, because we've realized like there is depth needed in these various interactions with the brand and away from the brand in other properties of the internet.
So would it be fair to say that if that is the case, then there kind of needs to be a standard, if you will, that needs to be set within the organization, especially with the staff that are on the front lines interacting with customers in terms of the kind of service and the experience that they deliver?
Yes, yes. And the simpler the standard, the clearer the standard,
Yep.
the easier it's adopted. I love how many of these trainers, customer service trainers, they have these checks, right? So did you greet the customer? Did you really have a smile as you greeted the customer? Because the smile can really, present itself in the audio, in your voice, right?
Yep.
I love the detail that they get into, and I think a layer, like you said, a standard layer of, hey, at the end of that interaction, whether it's a call, a chat, or whatever, at the end of that interaction, did you leave a positive experience? Did you feel that you left them with a positive experience? Did you feel you provided value? Are they richer for that interaction or not? If that be, this is something that we always debate about, whether it's sales or marketing or customer support. That interaction, if it was left with the person being richer, either for value, because they've spent the time, I think that's what organizations need to focus on. So make that standard clear and simple enough that it can be discussed not just in board meetings, but also on with frontline for every interaction that's done with the brand.
Okay. And where would you say monitoring your competition comes into this? And I ask that because the last thing you would want is to be caught on the back foot in terms of offering an experience that your competitor is already way ahead of and delivering, and you're experiencing churn, and then you realize, oh, we have a problem. How does that come into play with the whole idea of improving your customer experience on a day-to-day basis?
If you were truly listening to your customers, the competition becomes irrelevant.
Right.
If you are doing these feedback, if you really are doing these feedback sessions, if you are really looking at those comments of your customers or your prospects who did not become customers and learning from it, naturally they would tell you that, hey, somebody else is able to do this for me, not sure why you're not, right? So you will still get to know about competitor, but let it be through your customer, because sometimes competition would be doing so many things that they believe will take them places, but you get to know the core of what helps a customer through your customer, right? Customer is not going to tell you, hey, I wish we could do X because competitor does X. They'll tell you, hey, I wish we could do Y because A, I want to do it this way, and B, your competition also has it. So I'd rather really just stick on to listening to your customers. So Jeff Bezos, no matter how cliche or it's talked about, so there is nothing as golden as how he's obsessively focused with what his customers are saying. That's really the way, yeah, in my opinion. Yeah.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but you're suggesting that certainly empathy is required, but your values and a mission, if you will, of the organization is really the key driver for the experiences and the service and the products that you want to deliver, and that the competition therefore becomes irrelevant as long as the culture is very much focused on delivering on that particular mission and abiding by the values that you as an organization hold. Am I interpreting that correctly?
Yeah, the something we never touched upon is mission. Yes, it's
Yep.
very important. Yes, for the mission to be clearly laid out, and hopefully that mission is has some form of empathy as to why we are doing this, right? And then people believe in that mission. Something that Simon Sinek says is with the infinite game. If you can provide a mission that's infinite in nature, so you're not just celebrating your $1 million milestone or your IPO event, you're really celebrating every other day that you're making possible this mission that you signed up for within the company. So
Okay. Yep.
I think it's very important. You're bang on the money. The mission statement, be very clear and crisp to anyone in the organization. And that's really where it should start from. The mission, the culture, the should embody parts of empathy in ways possible.
Mm-hmm. Do you use a framework within your own organization to help ensure you're on track and view things in its proper perspective?
Yeah, we're not, to be honest, we're not the experts in creating frameworks in the mission statement, but what we did well was every all hands, we would repeat that mission in the beginning of every call. If you had new joinees or if you had people, who were maybe derailing, you'd get back to, oh yes, this is why we're doing this big thing here at Freshworks, right? And I think that was good. Every all hands would repeat our vision, and that would help us be aligned. But in terms of a framework, if there's anyone who's really looking at it, I'd highly recommend Simon Sinek's Infinite Games. He truly brings out the various elements, and you can evaluate your mission with that book. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll link to that in the show notes for listeners. Sri, is there another aspect of being able to set customer expectations and certainly being able to better listen to your customers that you feel we haven't quite touched upon but should?
Yeah. So I think one of the things is subjectivity. Isn't it? You have a vision statement, you build empathy into the team with your customers, you've hired great team members, right? And you trust the system to work, right? But sometimes along the way, we forget that there's quite some subjectivity involved when someone understands something or hears from another person. What's truly helped me is really encouraged an environment of peer feedback. Right? Always sharing, hey, this is what I'm thinking. Am I thinking straight? And not just for an internal meeting, a review with a team member, even with a customer communication. If you can also, include into that customer experience feedback from peers, that would also keep ourselves aligned and ensure that the subjectivity is positive. Right? It's not meandering to our own understanding of what we think should be.
Excellent. Sri, if you were listening to this episode, what would be your top takeaway?
I think your words were strong in my mind, Vinay. The clear, simple mission statement that can rally your teams and have empathy built into it can truly, win your customer experience strategies for an infinite game. So I think your words, I will take your words as my takeaway. Possibly going to go back into my mission statement, run that with the team and really, hey guys, what's your take on this? I think that would be it, Vinay.
Sri, if listeners are curious and wanted to find out more or connect with you, where would you recommend they head to?
Yes, I'm there in LinkedIn. I love an email, a call over the weekend. Why not? Sreelesh.Pillai, first name dot last name at freshworks.com. That's an email address. Connect with me in LinkedIn. I'm so and so in Twitter, but yeah, LinkedIn, email, and Twitter would be best places to look for me.
Excellent. Sri, thanks so much for doing this.
No, thank you, Vinay, for having me. It was a pleasure.